How fun. It's good to see everybody. Teresa is here. Her video is off. Who else is here? There she is. All right. Everybody want to say hello real quick? Give a big wave. I love it. All right. Everyone having a good week? Hump day? I see Andrea's already hitting her wine.
So no, it has not been a good week and a good hump day.
No.
But we're good because I'm here. It'll be fine.
Yeah. All right. Anybody else having a good week? Okay week? Yeah. Everyone having a good week, give me a thumbs up. Everybody having a challenging week, giving a thumb sideways. Okay, challenging. Okay, kind of. Everyone having a bad week, give me a thumbs down. Oh no. Okay. Now we have to collectively uplift Andrea. And so I like to open up with the Sahana Vavatu chant, a togetherness, oneness chant. Let us become one. Let us grow together. Let us be protected and nourished together. Let us be enthusiastic together. And may there be no bad vibes between one another. Static electricity. Bad static. Good static is good. Bad static, not so good. Everyone can hear me okay, yes? Okay, inhale for Om. Everybody join. Om. Sahana Vavatu. Sahanau Bhunaktu. Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvina Tamastu Ma Vidvishavahai Om Shanti 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 Om Yogena Chittasya Padena Vacham Malam Sharirasya Cha Vaidyakena Yopakarotam Pravaram Muninam Patanjalim Pranjali Ranatosmi Abahu Purushakaram Shankachakrasidharinam Sahasrashirasham Shvetam Pranimami Patanjalim Srimate Anantaya Nagarajaya Namo Namaha Namo Namaha Namo Namaha Okay, so I think we stopped at 2.7, 7th Sutra, second chapter. Is that correct? Is that what you guys have in your notes? Yes? Good. 2.7. Sukha. Sukha means agreeable space or mental happiness, mental agreeability. Anushayi, it's sort of when you remember something that is happy, having a previous experience that is positive, that is agreeable, that brings you sukha, creates raga. Raga, which means that which is attached or attachment. So here he is explaining what is raga, what is the third klesha. What is it? Raga is desire. Raga is desire or attachment. It's a desire that you can't get rid of. It's a desire you can't get rid of. Like whenever you have a melody stuck in your head. You can't get rid of it. You understand? That is raga. As a matter of fact, in classical Indian music, the word raga means melody. Raga is also melody in classical Indian music. Raga. Da, 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 you know, whatever melody, it sticks in your mind. You remember it. So raga is something that is you have such an affinity for, a liking for, that it creates an attachment. The more time you spend with anything breeds familiarity. Familiarity. Kind of like family, right? The more you are around a certain thing, an object, the more familiar it is to you. And for most of us, the thing that we are most attached to is family. For most of us. So here, an attachment that arises out of the misconception of the self due to the experience of memory, or a happiness that is derived from an object. An object can be a thing or an event. So object doesn't necessarily mean a physical object, but an event, a happening, a happening. Makes sense? A happening. Because most people are, again, happy upon happenings. Something has to happen, and then we become happy. And so this sort of thing, if we have that same experience over and over and over again, it creates a sort of an attachment. This is called raga. Very simple, very simple. 8th Sutra, dukkha is the opposite. Any questions on that? I think that's pretty straightforward. Okay. Dukkha is the opposite of sukha. Dukkha is typically translated as suffering, sorrow, or pain. And du means disagreeable. Ka refers to akasha, or the space, mental space. So dukkha is disagreeable mental space, or sorrow, suffering. We call this suffering. Dukkha is often translated as suffering. Anushayi, again, as a result of. Dvesha is enmity. It's the same thing that we just invoked in our peace chant. Let us not have any enmity between one another. Let us not have any sorrow or suffering between one another. Dvesha. So dvesha is hatred or enmity, or it's a negative feeling, a negative experience, a negative association, mental association. So anytime we have a painful experience, we develop dvesha towards it, or aversion. Dvesha is aversion. Here he's defining the 4th klesha. There are 5 kleshas total, pancha klesha. This is the 4th klesha, which is a negative feeling you cannot get rid of. Hatred, or aversion, right? This is hatred. Previous one is, you can even say it's love. Depends on how one defines love. But raga is an attachment-based love. It's not really love, it's attachment. Yeah, you can say you love something so much you're attached to it. Here it's you don't like something so much you are repelled. You are repelled by it. You have an aversion. Someone, every one of us, I'm pretty sure we have somebody in our lives that when they come around, you just want to leave. Yeah? This is called dvesha. You have somebody in your life like that, probably, or thing, right? A person, place, or thing. It could be a place, it could be a thing. It depends on your mental association with that particular thing, based on a negative previous experience. Does that make sense? And that experience can be 3 kinds, going back to the first chapter. What are those 3 types of experiences? How can you know something? 3 ways. A direct experience. Someone can tell you something about it, right? Or you can infer. So sometimes we develop what's called, we develop this aversion towards something that we have no idea what it is. We've never seen it. We've only heard about it. Gossip, this causes gossip. I mean, gossip can cause this sometimes. Someone talks badly about somebody and you have this idea about this person, you create this negative feeling based on what you've heard about a thing, a person, place, or thing, and you develop a hatred towards it. Even though that experience wasn't real, it was an experience that you sort of, made up in your mind based on what you hear, read, or infer. Make sense? But this is typically towards something that we actually experience in real life. But again, it can happen completely inside the chitta. This is called devesha. Devesha again is not inversion, aversion, not inversion, aversion. So, what is aversion? Aversion is you come, repelling, like to the same poles of a magnet repel each other. That is aversion. That is the fourth klesha. Now the fifth klesha, sva, rasavahi. Sva means the self, the real self. Rasa means the essential nature of something. It's very, very subtle. Rasa, the rasa is essence. The essence of the self. Vahi is a scholar. Vahi is a scholar. You can write that down. Vahi is a scholar. So a scholar, Vadusha is a scholar or a wise man. So Vahi refers to one who has traveled and studied, same thing. It's sort of, so Vahi Vidusha, Api, even so, in spite of sama rudaha, completely attached to oneself. Sama means completely. Rudaha is to attach to oneself or one's lower self, which is one's body. Abhinavesha is Abhinavesha. So this is the fifth klesha. The fifth klesha is called Abhinavesha. Abhinavesha is the clinging to one's body. What is the clinging to one's body? It is fear of death, fear of losing one's body. Abhinavesha means fear of death, fear of losing one's body. Because we identify with the body, that when the body ceases to exist, we feel that we cease to exist. And so that's why we fear death so much. We want to exist. That's why we're in our bodies. Our desire to exist in form, in avatara, right? Avatar means form, creates this attachment, which is ignorance, right? Because we are not the body. So here he's saying that even a scholar who is well-traveled and well-studied will have this abhinavesha. Even though one who understands the difference between the nature of the self and the false self and the true self, even though one who is studied, the scholar can still have this fear of death. This brings me back to this Tran Band. I love this Krishnamacharya quote. You guys remember seeing this? What's going on? Hang on. Oops. Okay. What does that say? Practice without knowledge is blind. Knowledge without practice is futile. This practice without knowledge. So practicing without these supporting theories is blind, according to Krishnamacharya. Practicing quote unquote yoga without knowing why we're doing yoga is blind. Knowledge without practice is futile. In other words, a scholar will still have fear of death. We can talk about meditation until we're blue in the face, but if one does not practice meditation, one will not receive the benefits of meditation. Does that make sense? It's the same as with asanas, right? I can study triangle pose for a decade, or I can practice triangle pose for a decade. Which one's going to get closer to achieving trikonasana, right? So this is sort of what Krishnamacharya meant. Practice without knowledge is blind, and knowledge without practice is pointless. Futile means pointless. Even a scholar who has studied texts about the self still has pain or the fear of death. This is the fifth klesha. So there's a note in our book here. It says that the subtle body is born into a new body through karma. What is karma? Karma means actions and consequences. It becomes attached to the new body and doesn't want to leave it for its fear of death. The main misunderstanding is of the non-self as the self, which refers to Sutra 5 from this chapter. Okay, pretty straightforward. Pretty straightforward. Okay. Any questions so far? Can anybody review the 5 kleshas for me? One person at a time.
Are they fear, attachment, hatred, wrong conception of self, and fear of death?
Say that again.
I'm just reading it from the 210. Fear, attachment, hatred, wrong conception of self, and fear of death.
You said fear first. Did you say fear first and then fear of death last?
Yes.
So the first one is not fear. The first one is called avidya. Avidya means wrong knowledge, incorrect understanding of oneself. That's called avidya. Avidya is the first one. So if you list them off, make sure that you list them in order. There's a reason why there's an order to it, because remember, avidya, ignorance of the self, or wrong knowledge of one's true self, is the breeding ground for the others. You guys remember that? So it's important to list that one very first. If anyone ever asks you to list them, someone like this person here, if I ever ask you to list them in order. There's a reason, okay? Because avidya is the breeding ground. Avidya, smita, raga, dvesha, binivesha. Again, okay, so what was the second one, Danielle?
Well, I'll go back and list them in order. Then the second one was it asmita?
Yes.
Okay.
Can anyone do it off memory? No, not yet. This is a good one to memorize. Again, yoga is full of lists. There are a bunch of lists in yoga. If you read any of the texts, everything is listed. It's really funny. It's very scientific. So memorize these lists. The first one are the 5 chitta vrittis, first chapter. Remember 5 chitta vrittis? Then the 2-prong approach, abhyasa vairagya, practice and letting go. Then you move on. There's a list of 9 obstacles. Remember the list of 9 obstacles. And then there are the seven. There's a list of 7, first chapter. And so, anyways, just know all the little tiny lists. This is an important list called the Pancha Kleshas, 5 reasons or 5 afflictions, 5 causes of pain. You'll start to experience these things in your meditations. You'll start to experience, attachment, aversion. But it's usually from the last up. So you're a new meditator, yeah. You're a new meditator. The first thing that you're going to experience in your meditations is probably fear. Would you agree with that? A new person meditating, closing their eyes, the first thing they experience isn't going to be attachment. Like raga or devesha, or having a sense of ego. They're not going to feel that. That's like the last thing they sense. The first thing you're going to sense is fear. You close your eyes and it's fearful. Oh, something's going to happen. I don't know what it is. I'm scared of dying. I gotta open my eyes. It's the first thing. Then after a little while, once you get past that, then you start to experience, what's the next one? You might start to experience some aversions. You'll start to remember the pains that you have. Then after that, you'll start to remember your attachments. Then when you're able to get over those, then you'll start to feel this as mita. Oh, I'm existing here. I have this feeling that I'm existing. Very subtle. This is very deep in your meditation. And then finally, you figure out who you are, because you're in and out of that state of ego awareness, self-awareness, ego awareness, self-awareness. Then you have this experience of samadhi, and then you have an idea of you're not your mind, there's something else. You're this observer that's observing the mind, having all these fluctuations. Then the moment happens, you realize your true nature, and then all the other stuff goes away. All the aversions and attachments and asmita, and then the fear of death is then examined through an experience of pure bliss, an experience of nothingness and oneness all at the same time. This is samadhi. Then you realize that all the other stuff is just temporary and not you. Okay. So again, reciting the 5 kleshas. Avidya, asmita, raga, dvesha, abhinavesha, panchakleshaha. That is the third sutra. Avidya, asmita, raga, dvesha, abhinavesha, kleshaha. That's a good one to memorize. Okay, very good. And I'll put you guys on the spot. Sorry, not sorry. All right, leading to Ashtanga Yoga now. Next step. This is the 10th sutra. So what does he say here? So he talks about, again, the 5 kleshas. These subtle kleshas, te refers to these. Prati prasava. Prati, completely destroyed. Prati prasava. Or completely removed, rolled back, completely rolled back. Hey yaha. Hey yaha means that you're fit to have, you're fit to be, should be. Shukshma are the subtle kleshas. Shukshma means subtle. Shukshma, so subtle that you can't locate them, That's what it means. So subtle you can't locate it. Can you locate aversion in your body? Can you locate attachment in your body? No. Can you locate ignorance in your body? And you would say that it all resides here. Heart, mind, chitta, here, maybe the heart, but they're linked, right? Heart and mind is linked. So it's so subtle we cannot locate it. These subtle kleshas, fear, attachment, hatred, wrong conception of self, and fear of death. Oh, he says fear, attachment. This is where you saw it, right? Fear. No, it's ignorance, attachment, hatred. You might fix that in your book. She lists here fear. That should say ignorance. Should be destroyed or completely rolled back or removed in order to come to Nirodha, to make the mind fit for samadhi. This is interesting. The example that he gave, it's funny, this is the same thing that happened. Okay, so my parents came over. Peter, where are you? Is Peter gone? Pete's gone. No, there he is. Pops back onto the scene. Do you remember when my mom came over and she was cutting up the watermelon?
I was not there for the watermelon.
Okay,
Maybe
anyway, okay, she wasn't here. Anyway, she came, my parents came the other day and I had a couple water, she cut it up for us like that with her hands. Yeah. It's a joke, whatever. Okay. And she made a comment. She goes, do you guys cut different vegetables, onions and garlic and meat and everything on the same cutting board? And I said, well, not meat, but I mean, I don't. Do you eat? I don't think you. Yeah, we it's just vegetables. And if I use parchment paper. Anyways, she said it smells like onions. So there's a tendency for whatever we use on the cutting board to sort of seep into the cutting board. Yeah. Ramaswamy used the example of the earthen pot, like a clay pot. He says that the clay pot will usually retain the aroma of whatever you cook in it, particularly garlic or onions. And so if you want to cook a dish, you want to make sure that the pot is purified before you cook another dish, or else, unless you don't mind having the garlic or the onion. Make sense? So it's the same idea here, is that to destroy these, you have to remove, it's sort of this aroma that's been embedded in our chitta. If our chitta was a clay pot, this ignorance, hatred, attachment, egotism, fear of death, it's really soaked into our chitta, so it's difficult to remove. But he's like, but it should be removed in order to make the mind fit for samadhi. These things have to be removed. Otherwise, you're just a scholar that can recite and still doesn't have, a scholar is still afraid of death. So now, the 11th sutra. So this is a leading up. It's a 2 sutra sort of intro or segue, if you will, segue into Ashtanga yoga. He hasn't mentioned Ashtanga yoga yet. To this point, he's only talked about yoga for the entry level, part-time yogi, right? Kriya yoga. On the 11th sutra, he mentions dhyana. Dhyana heyas tat vrittayaha. Dhyana, what is dhyana? Dhyana means meditation. Internal yoga practice. He mentions it here. He says, heya, again, destroyed. Destroys what? The groups of vrittis. How do you destroy? How do you destroy the pancha kleshas, the 5 causes of pain? Meditation. Meditation destroys it. By the practice of dhyana, the 5 kleshas can be destroyed. And yoga and meditation are synonymous. Yoga and meditation are synonymous. So here, this is for the middle level yogi, because the entry level yogi is probably not meditating yet. What is the entry level yogi doing? Entry level yogi is doing tapas, swadhyaya, ishvara, pranidhana. Tapas, remember, discipline of the senses, not meditation yet, just disciplining the senses. Swadhyaya, studying the self or appropriate texts or scriptures, and surrendering to the Ishvara, to the highest, to a unique consciousness unaffected by time, karma, and pain, remember? So, all right, so moving on. So he's saying, okay, these kleshas are subtle and they need to be destroyed. How do you destroy them? Through meditation. Okay, dhyana here represents Ashtanga yoga. So he's just foreshadowing. Okay, 12th sutra. So here he's sort of like, you got to understand, when this text was introduced or popularized, I won't say introduced, it was popularized. It existed well before it was in this form. It existed in student to teacher transmission, oral transmission. And at the time, there was Buddhism, there was Sikh, there was Jainism, there's a bunch of other contemporary philosophies, and Vedanta. And so most of all these theories would recognize the validity of the karma theory. Right here. So this sutra sort of, he starts to talk about the karma theory. So he's just, so let's see what he says. He says, klesha mulaha. What is mula? Mula bandha. What is mula? What is mula? What is mula? Root. Mula means root. Root. What is klesha? Klesha is affliction. So the root of these afflictions. What is the root of these afflictions? What is the cause of these afflictions? He says, He calls it a container of misunderstanding. A container of misunderstanding is karmasya. Karmasya remains unmanifested karmas, remain in unmanifested karma, which have not resulted in experiences yet. They are experiences that are to happen, right? So the root of it, the misunderstanding, leads to a bundle of karma. Karmashaya is a bundle of karma. Your bundle of, everyone's carrying a bundle of karma. It's like let's call it baggage. Everyone's carrying baggage, yeah? Everyone's carrying baggage. So it's a bundle of karma that we carry. It's unmanifested. Drishta, two things, drishta and adrishta. So what is drishta? Drishta is the seen. Did we lose somebody? Drishta is the seen, and adrishta means the unseen. What is the seen? The seen is what is happening now in the present moment. What is adrishta? Adrishta is future karmas, which is unseen. So this refers to the present and the future. Drishta, adrishtaha. Janma sounds like an English word. Means birth. So janma, generation, right? Generation or germination. Janma means life, birth and life. Niyaha is experience. So what is he saying here? What if you don't do yoga? Well, the kleshas are the repository of unripe karmas that will be experienced during the rest of the present life or the future life. In other words, he's saying that you're not going to be able to escape your karma. Is that these kleshas will be experienced during this life or the future life. So long as there's ignorance of the self, these unripe karmas will continue to fructify and turn into dukkha. Yes? So long as there's a vidya. As long as there is a vidya, these unripe karmas, these karmashayas, will fructify into dukkha. Dukkha is, what is dukkha? Sorrow, pain, or suffering. These kleshas, the klesha itself are the vessels for fructification or manifestation of these past karmas. Okay. 13, sati mule tat vipaka jati ayuha and bhogaha. We talked about bhoga before. Earlier we said that bhoga means a bhogi is one who likes to enjoy, right? Bhogi is one who likes, is self-indulgent, a hedonist, one who's looking for experiences. Here, a bhoga is he's just saying is experience, not necessarily a positive experience, just an experience. So long as there are kleshas, mostly avidya, right? So long as they are kleshas, mostly avidya, they will fructify or mature in this birth or a different one, right? Or during the span of one's life, resulting in an experience. So long as kleshas remain, they will fructify and mature to produce a new birth, a different life, a span of life with more resulting experiences. So here he's sort of referring to what sounds like samsara. Have you heard of samsara? S-A-M-S-A-R-A, samsara. What is samsara? Samsara is the endless cycle. Huh?
The endless cycle of life and death.
Yeah, birth and death. The endless cycle of birth and death, birth and death, birth and death. It seems to be infinitely infinite. See, again, you have to understand that the karma theory was accepted in this time. It wasn't something that was debated, as in today's time. Today's time, it's very debated. You either believe or don't believe. Oh, I don't believe in karma. Well, you don't have to believe in karma. Go hurt someone. They'll probably end up hurting you back. Do some good. You'll probably get some good back, So, it's just cause and effect. Karma is just cause and effect. But as we start to understand science more and more, we start to realize that energy cannot neither be created nor destroyed. It is called the law of conservation of energy. And if we are truly energy beings, which I have that experience that we are energy beings, then we can neither be destroyed nor created. If we are neither destroyed nor created, we are going through what is known as samsara. Samsara is the endless cycle of birth, death, birth and death, birth and death. Okay. So then the question that arises is then what propels us to a future birth? What propels us into a future birth? The two things propel us into future birth. One is ignorance, avidya, and the second thing is the unmanifested bundle of karma that we carry. Avidya and karmashaya, the unmanifested bundle of karma. 14, te halada. Te, what is te referring to? These what? Karmashayas, bundle of karma that is going to manifest in the future. Halada, ecstatic, happy, right? Referring to halada is like sukha. Halada is like sukha. Paritapa is the opposite, sad, miserable, dukkha. So again, he's using these words instead of sukha and dukkha. Phala, it's not phala. In Sanskrit, ph is pronounced pa, not fa. Phala, fruits. Punya means good karma. Punya means good karma. So virtuous deeds, uplifting, like the energy we were sending towards Andrea at the beginning of our opening, that was punya karma. We were projecting punya karma towards Andrea. Apunya is the opposite. Apunya means vice, or sinful, bad, opposite of punya. And hetatvat is due to what? The future experiences are either happy or unhappy depending on the karmas from we being virtuous or not virtuous. So easy, so straightforward. That your future experiences are going to be either happy or unhappy based on whether your actions, thoughts, words, and deeds were either virtuous or not virtuous. Duh, right? That's pretty straightforward. But I like the Sanskrit. I like the Sanskrit of it. So in other words, if you want good, do good. If you do bad, then don't be upset when bad happens, right? 15, parinama. Parinama means change or transformation. Parinama means transformation. Tapa means intense desire here. Or let's say tapa is not getting what you want. Not getting what you want. How sad. Samskara. Samskaras are habits, patterns, and tendencies. It's some people have a habit of staying unhappy, or it's the thing is we get really good at what we practice, consciously or unconsciously. I say this in yoga class all the time. If you are constantly in a state of distraction and you don't do anything about it, you are practicing being in a state of distraction. And the more you practice being in a state of distraction, the better you get at it. And so when you try to focus, you have a habit of being distracted because you've constantly been distracted. So on the other hand, if you start to practice focusing, repeating a mantra, staying with an object over a period of time, or whatever it is, staying in a pose for longer than you think you can, or whatever, then you start to change the mind's patterns and tendencies. Okay. Dukkha or dukkai is pain. Again, dukkha is sorrow. painful, sorrowful experiences, suffering. Guna refers to the 3 gunas here. Remember, there are in yoga we have 3 gunas. In Ayurveda we have how many gunas? I don't think we've gotten to it. 20 gunas in Ayurveda, 20 gunas. So in yoga, just 3. 3 gunas referring to sattva, rajas, and tamas. Vritti refers to the activities, not chitta vrittis, but guna vrittis. Guna vrittis. This is different. What is vritti? Vritti means activity. Activity. Here refers to the activities of the 3 gunas. Virodhat is incompatible. Cha also. Dukkham pain. Eva only. Sarvam everything. Vivekinaha is viveka, which means discernment or judgment or discrimination, or for the discerning mind. So what is he saying here? It's not a happy sutra. He's basically saying that there are 3 types of dukkhas, right? There's dukkha that happens as because of change, right? When something changes in our lives, then we can be unhappy. When there is intense desire and we can't fulfill it, then we're unhappy. And there are habits that we can't correct, that we can't change. Keeps us unhappy, right? These 3 things keep us happy. I know that's whenever when I'm in a happy place and that happy place is taken away from me, I'm not happy. I'm suffering. Again, if I want something I can't get, and if I can't change my habits. These 3 pains are a result of the activities of the 3 gunas and will lead to pain. And he uses the word sarvam. So, okay, there are 2 things, the external world and one's mind. Every action is painful because of its changing nature, our desires that are unfulfilled, and our habits that cannot be changed. Furthermore, the gunas, the sattva, rajas, and tamas, which are operating in mind, are mutually incompatible. That's a weird one, the last part of it. Basically, he's saying that there are 3 types of pain and that life is full of pain. Life is full of pain, and for the viveki, of the discerning mind, one who has the ability to discern or analyze, realizes this, and I asked Ramaswamy, what is this incompatibility? What does that mean, incompatible? See here, objects create conflicting reactions because the objects change, and so does the mind of the experiencer. For an example, a man will act differently towards his new bride than when he was decided to divorce her and she becomes his ex-wife. Also, happiness is not permanent or sure, thus pain will result at some time. Permanent happiness only exists in a mind that knows the true nature of the self. So I asked about this, and he says, I see, okay, the gunas. For example, when sattva dominates the mind, then we become charitable. When rajas dominates the mind, we become aggressive. And when tamas dominates the mind, we become stingy. So I can see how these things might not be compatible. I guess you can still be charitable and stingy, charitable and aggressive, stingy and aggressive. I'm not sure, but there are definitely different qualities when these gunas dominate, and the gunas are always changing. A person is not always charitable. Sometimes a charitable person is also stingy. Sometimes a stingy person can be charitable. So not quite sure. Most people suffer but cannot see it. A viveki, one who analyzes one's life, can see it through discernment. Okay, let's move on. In other words, so what this sutra means to me is that that with life, there's always going to be suffering, right? What I got out of this was with birth comes suffering. Anyone who's taken birth is going to suffer. It doesn't matter who you are. No one's going to go through this life without suffering. And I think that's a truth. So then, therefore, this next sutra, the 16th sutra, Heyam Dukam Anagatam. Heyam means to be avoided. Dukam means pain. And Anagatam means following. So future pain is to be avoided. Future pain is to be avoided. But how do you know? How do you see? I remember a time in my life that I'd never really thought about the future pain. I only lived for the moment. Like most of my choices revolved around how can I make myself happy now? I want happiness now. What do I need to do now? Let's go get drunk. Let's go, whatever. Let's go do this. Let's go do that. And then we don't really contemplate this until we start to develop our intellectual mind intelligence. Intelligence we call buddhi or discernment. So we become more discerning in our choices. Yeah, as we get older, we become a little more discerning in our choices because we start to see certain choices lead to certain pains. And the older we get, the more conservative one usually gets. Yeah, would you guys agree with that? The older someone gets, the more conservative they get. So ayam dukam anagatam, future pain is to be avoided. But Krishnamacharya translates this as future births are to be avoided. Right? So maybe at a more superficial level in this lifetime, yeah, I don't want to hurt tomorrow, so I'm going to do things today to not hurt tomorrow. But if you have a more of a macro viewpoint in this of existence, right? Existence beyond birth and death, then one would consider future births to be avoided. So therefore, how do you avoid future births? How do you avoid future births? Let's find out. So everything that we do, according to the karma theory, everything that we do creates a result or a consequence. I love what Danny Paradise said in 2010 when I was in Kripalu. I remember him saying, he goes, karma is not punishment. Karma is just consequence. Karma is not punishment. Karma is just consequence. And that everything that we do seems to create a desirable or undesirable consequence. Yoga is an activity that is supposed to not accumulate karma. Is that interesting? Yoga is supposed to be an activity that's not supposed to produce karma. Everything else that we do is supposed to produce karma. I think about that. It's just hard to, at a more like at a more tangible level, it's hard for me to fathom how just being in this body, I'm taking up space, I'm breathing, I'm creating karma somehow. I don't understand that. I don't understand how by doing yoga you're not producing karma. What does he mean when he says yoga? Does he mean asana, or does he mean karma yoga, or does he mean meditation? Because if you're a karma yogi, remember we talked about the 4 paths to yoga? Did we talk about this? 4 paths for yoga? Bhakti yoga, jnana yoga, raja, hatha yoga, bhakti yoga, yeah, the yoga of devotion. If you live a devoted life, if you fully devote yourself to the Supreme, you're still out in the world doing things. You might not take the credit or whatever, but you're still creating karma and consequence because you're occupying space and you're taking action. If you're doing asanas, yeah, you're not affecting anything else but yourself. But what if you step on a bug because you stepped on the wrong place? It's hard for me to fathom how doing yoga cannot cause karma unless he means meditation. If you're sitting there, maybe in a cave somewhere for weeks at a time, and you're in samadhi, and you're hardly breathing, you don't take any water, you sit in the same spot. I can see how that cannot create karma. You're not causing ripples in the universe. You're not thinking, you're not acting, you're just, your body's taking up physical space. But that's the only way I can fathom that it doesn't create karma. So, yeah, so that's interesting. You can't avoid pain in this life, but you can escape the pain from future births. So if life is mostly suffering, then to avoid pain, you avoid future births. You go through a lot of unhappiness to get a little bit of happiness. Is that true for in your life? Is that you have gone through, I know I've gone through a lot of unhappiness to get a little bit of happiness. Like, I don't know, how much challenge have I gone through to accomplish any of the major accomplishments I've had in my life that have made me happy? I would say that, I mean, right now, starting this nonprofit, it is a lot of suffering, you guys. I go through these ups and downs, faith and doubt and faith and doubt. And I mean, I'm going through all this challenge, and then we'll have an event. And I'm like, oh yes, that was a great event. Oh my God, yes, that was wonderful. I'm happy for like a day. And then I go through another week or two of challenge, and then we have an event, and I'm happy. I'm satisfied, happiness and satisfied because something happened. And then back to the drawing board, the next accomplishment. And then this whole life, it's been like that. So I see what he's saying. The immediate future is already set. Our immediate future is already set based on the choices we've made in the past. Let's see, what does she say here? Don't you think that is everything, though, to some extent? Teresa, yes? Can you chime in?
Yeah. So, you were talking about struggling, and, you go through the suffering, and then you have something and it's like, oh, yay. And then it's good for a little bit, and then you're back to, the drudge. And that's just, if
Yeah,
you look at it, everything.
That's everything. That's most of our lives. Yeah, I would summarize that to be the majority of people's lives. Whether you are born with a silver spoon or not, there's still going to be some kind of challenge that we go through just to achieve a little bit of happiness. It's true for everybody, absolutely, and for almost everything. I mean, look at the story of the Buddha. He had everything given to him. He was a prince. His dad loved him so much and showered him with all the worldly things that one can have, all the celebrations, all the people, surrounded by people and food and activities, and safe. He was in the palace. Everything was safe. Even he had challenges. His challenge was, what is this suffering? So he had to go through a lot of suffering to figure out what is suffering and how to alleviate it. Okay, moving on. 17 here. What time is it? Do we need a break? 7:55. Okay, can we keep going? Okay, 17. Drashtra is of the observer, referring to the non-changing self. He'll explain this in the next 3 sutras again, so that he's again talking about the cause here, talking about the cause. Drashtra, the of the non-changing self, drishyaho, of the observed, and samyogahe, total integration, or the mixing of the two, total mixing of the two, is the cause. What is the cause? The cause of what? The cause of the future births. What is the cause? The cause of the future births. The mixing up of these two, the observer and the observed, thus consciousness, the observer, being mixed with what it sees. What does it see? It sees the chitta vrittis. It sees the activities of the mind, the projections of the mind. When that happens, we live in this mixed reality or the matrix, and this ignorance of not knowing what is real and what is unreal is the cause of future births, which is avidya. He's just explaining avidya in a different way. So 18, now he's going to explain those three things: the observer, the observed, and the mixing of, or the complete union of, samyogihe, total integration. Prakasha means clarity or light. Here he was referring to sattva guna. Prakash means sattva guna, sattva referring to sattva guna. Kriya means action. What is action? Action is rajas. Rajas is action. Sthiti, what is sthiti? Sthiti is steadiness or inertia. It refers to tamas. These three gunas. Shilam refers to quality. Bhuta means elements. What are the five elements? What are the five elements? Space. Okay, so actually, again, this is another list. It's another list of five. You can remember it this way with your hand. Okay? So this is the lowest one, and this is the highest one. Lowest one, starting with the pinky finger, is earth. Earth is lowest, right? Earth is solid. Next is water, right? You'll never find rock floating on water. Well, never say never. You won't see rock floating in water, right? Water floats above rock or soil. And what is above water? What is above water? We can say fire, right? Bhuta, earth, fire, earth, liquid, fire, air, space. Earth, liquid, earth or water, fire, air, and space. So it goes from the most gross at the bottom to the most subtle. Space and ether, right? Space and ether. Space is the container for all the other four. Space is the container. In other words, ether does not get displaced as a result of matter, but air does, yeah? Does that make sense? Ether does not get displaced. Like, it can get filled, but there's still space there once you fill it. Once you remove an object from space, the space is still the same. So, but all the other elements, they displace each other, yeah? Does it make sense, you guys? Yeah, okay. So here the bhutas refers to the five elements. Indriya refers to the 11 senses, including, so you have 5 sense organs. This is Sankhya. Remember we talked about Sankhya previously? You guys remember Sankhya? Okay, this is from Sankhya. What are the 5 senses? The 5 senses in your head. 5 senses in your head, and then you've got the 5 organs of actions, the karma indriyas, 5 karma indriyas. What is it? Your hands, your feet, 2, 4, and digestion, elimination, and reproduction. So that is 5 organs of action. So that's 5, 10, 5 and 10. So there's 11. So mind, the coordinator. Your mind coordinates those things. You have organs of perception, jnana indriyas, jnana indriyas, jnana indriyas, jnana indriyas, and karma indriyas. Those are 10. 5 and 5 are 10, plus the mind. That's what he's referring to here, indriyas. So 5 elements, 11 indriyas, and atma refers to the self, the soul, Boga refers to experience. Aparvarga, to withdraw. So to withdraw from the experience. What is the experience? To withdraw from the internal and external experiences that are both happy and unhappy. Internal and external experiences that are both happy and unhappy. That's what he means here. And artham means for the sake of, what is it? The sake of who? The sake of what? Drishayam, the observed, or the seen self. What is the seen self? The chitta vrittis. All right, let's summarize this. The observed, called drishaya, is made up of the 3 gunas, clarity, action, and inertia, and possesses 5 bhutas, or the 5 gross elements, and the 11 indriyas. Shouldn't say senses, those are organs. Those are organs. That's incorrect. Because only 5 of those are sense organs. The other 5 are organs of actions. So those are indriyas means organs. These this entire group can either produce experience or produce the withdrawal from prakriti, which moves the yogi towards kaivalya. All right, so in other words, you're going to have an experience, and those experiences are a result of the gunas and the elements and your senses. I'm sorry, your organs, and those are going to produce. Let me see. They can produce experiences, or they can withdraw you from prakriti. What is prakriti? Prakriti is the manifest and unmanifest universe, including your mind. In other words, all experiences. You need to either move away from experience or move towards experience. If you're moving towards experiences, you're moving away from kaivalya. What is kaivalya? We haven't talked about kaivalya yet, have we? Did he mention kaivalya here? He didn't mention kaivalya here. Why is kaivalya written here? Okay, what is kaivalya? Kaivalya is samadhi. Sort of. It's the end of samadhi. It's the last chapter here. I'm interested in why she put it. So, kaivalya. Kaivalya means freedom or alone. It literally translates as alone, but most people translate it as freedom. When you're free, you're alone, right? Like when you're not bound. Like if I'm not tethered to this location, I'm free. But because I'm tethered here, I'm not free. Likewise, we are tethered to our bodies, our possessions, and we're not free. So and we're not even there yet. That's the 4th chapter. Why would you? Okay. Anyways, in other words, the goal of yoga is to move into a state of freedom where you are completely unbound, untethered from anything, including one's perceived self. So as we start to as we seek experiences, we move away from that. It's high level of knowledge, kaivalya, or we can withdraw from prakriti, which are the 3 gunas. The further we withdraw from prakriti, the closer we come to kaivalya, or freedom. Now, does that make sense? So here's the thing. This is why this is important to me, because a lot of people who meditate seek experiences. Most people who meditate look for experiences. Would you agree with that? You're looking for something. You're looking for something. I met a person recently, and she's really into yoga and meditation and the philosophy. But every time she talked about her meditation, she was going off on an elaborate experience. And I'm like, you're just talking about fantasy. I didn't say that, but I'm thinking to myself, I'm not going to. Who am I to correct you on your journey? But yeah, she was just talking about, oh yes, I go somewhere else, and in this place, it's blah 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 blah. And she starts to describe this whole virtual reality. I'm like, that's boga, right? Boga, that's an experience, and we're trying to free ourselves from an experience. So the experience is the object. we're trying to free ourselves from the object so we can know the subject. I am the subject. I'm the subject. I don't need the object anymore. Because the mixture between the object and the subject is what causes my misery, or suffering, according to Patanjali. He keeps hitting the same button every time. He just says it in a different way. So, according to Patanjali, all bhoga, or all experiences, end up leading us to some kind of dukkha, or suffering. So in other words, you can go outward or you can go inward. And inward is how you find your true self. I think the great Jewish yogi once said, "The kingdom of God is within you. The kingdom of God is within you." And I've heard that happiness is an inside job. So we need to learn to go inside. All right. Ramaswamy loves that sutra. He thinks it's a beautiful sutra. All right. Checking on time, 8:07. Please give me a heads up when we have 5 minutes left, okay? Process of rolling back. So I'm on 19, you guys. 19. Visesha. This is a nice word. I like Visesha. Okay. Oh, this is interesting. Visesha, Avisesha. Interesting. He says she describes Visesha as being gross and Avisesha as subtle. Visesha. I know Visesha as meaning something different. Visesha means unique. Visesha. Let's see what this. Why did she put gross and subtle? Okay. Linga matra, the first stage of evolution. Okay, linga means manifestation. Linga means to manifest. So the first stage of evolution, or the first stage of manifestation. You know what linga also means? You have a Shiva. You know, ever heard of a Shiva lingam? Shiva lingam. What is a Shiva lingam? I'll show you what a Shiva lingam is. Hang on a sec. Let's see. We'll share screen. Let's go here. Oops, what's going on? Let's see. Close that out. All right, Shiva lingam. What is a Shiva lingam? So you see these often in India. Shiva lingams can be like rocks that you see along the river that look kind of like that. But oftentimes they're protrusions out of the earth. It's like sort of a manifestation, like a rock, a stump that comes out of the ground. Images of Shiva lingams, and they do these pujas or ceremonies where they pour oil or even mercury in some of these caves and then it'll go down, and then it goes down to a yoni. You ever heard of a yoni? What is yoni? You heard of yoni? Anybody? Yoni means, okay. So lingam means penis. Lingam means penis, and yoni means vagina. So yoni is vagina, lingam means penis, and there are lots of ceremonies that bring these two together. And it's if any time that a lingam, a naturally occurring lingam, is found in the earth, let me see if we can find a lingam, a naturally occurring lingam. So natural lingam. Oops, misspelled it. Lingam. Linga. All right. So here, inside a cave. Look at this. This is inside a cave. A natural protrusion inside a cave. Is that a weird phenomena? It's like a penis that comes out of the earth. You ever seen that before? And so whenever they find a naturally occurring lingam like that is where they usually build shrines, temples. Here's another one. Might be within the same cave. And then they do lots of worship around these lingams. Interesting, isn't it? I don't know. I find this fascinating. Some of them are natural, some of them are not natural. But if you find the major temples in India, you will find at the centerpiece, maybe in the basement or somewhere, if there's a basement, the lower levels, there is a naturally occurring lingam, and they are thought to be very auspicious. Here's another one. Auspicious. No, it looks like it might be the same one. Heck, they all look the same. Not really. But anyways, they're lingams. Lingam means penis or manifestation. Manifestation. All right. Okay. So here, Lingamatra, the first stage, manifestation, and Alingani is the unmanifest stage of the 4 stages. Or Alingani refers to Mula Prakriti. Refers to Mula Prakriti. We talked about that earlier. And the 3 gunas, synonymous with Prakriti. Again, pra means sattva, kra means rajas, and t means tamas. Here, order. Sattva is order. Rajas is energy, and tamas is chaos or disorder. The 3 gunas are in balance in the unmanifest stage. So in other words, again, this is Sankhya. This is Sankhya. He got through with karma theory. Now he's talking about Sankhya. What about this? Before the world was created, it was uncreated or unmanifest. During this unmanifest stage, all the gunas were in the state of equilibrium. In the Mula Prakriti state or stage, all the 3 gunas were in a state of equilibrium. That there was not more order than disorder, and the energy was evenly dispersed. Think about this for a moment. In a stage where all 3 gunas are in a state of equilibrium, when all 3 gunas are in a state of equilibrium, samadhi is experienced. Samadhi, the state of samadhi, is having an experience in which all 3 gunas are in the state of equilibrium. In other words, we are experiencing Mula Prakriti. See, right now, you and I are not in the state of Mula Prakriti. Our gunas are dancing. We are experiencing clarity, confusion, attachment, aversion. We're experiencing these ups and downs, right? The dualities or multiplicities of life, right? We're experiencing them all. But in the state of samadhi, there's no dancing of the gunas. In the state of samadhi, one experiences what happens before birth and after death. Because before birth and after death, we are existing in the state of Mula Prakriti. It's at a quantum level. We're existing at a quantum level. Right now, we're existing at a very physical and tangible level. Yes, would you agree with that? We're existing at a very tangible level right now. But when we meditate, we go subtle and subtle and subtle and subtle. When we reach the state of the most subtle aspect of who we are, the essence, the rasa, the essence of who we are, and then we're entering quantum fields. In these quantum fields, everything is in a state of balance. There's no movement. There's no vritti. Vritti means movement or activity. You experience a state in which there's no activity. When is that? That is whenever everything is in a state of equilibrium. That is one step down from the highest level of samadhi. One step down. To transcend that completely is to reach the highest level of samadhi. Okay, so moving on. Right, so the Drishaya, previous sutra is of the 4th. Yes?
Before you go on. So did I hear you right that before birth and after death that were in Mula Prakriti?
Yeah, we're in, well, yes, sort of. So, okay, let's go back to Sankhya. I'm gonna screen share real quick. That's not where I want to be. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So this is the evolution of Prakriti. Remember, we have Purusha on the left, now, which is consciousness, or spirit, or awareness. And over here, we have Prakriti, or the manifest world. And this is like unified field. Remember we talked about that? This is unified field. Then as we start to move into states of being, Prakriti, before Prakriti is Mula Prakriti. So it's one step right here before Purusha. You see that? The root of Prakriti is previous to Prakriti. Do you understand? So Prakriti is in a state of equilibrium, and then at some point, there's something happens. What happens is a result of Rajas, right? Rajas, first principle, intelligence, great intelligence, egotism, ahankara, not egotism, but identity. So we start to manifest into the gunas, Raja, Sattva, and Tamas. And over here, Sattva turns into mind. Tamas turns into the 5 elements, the bhutas, right? These are the 5 elements, the bhutas, tanmatras, bhutas. These are the Gyan Indriyas. Gyan means awareness or organs of perception. Indriyas mean organs. And Karma Indriyas, earlier I said Karma Indriyas, organs of action. Hands, holding, hands, moving, feet, procreation, elimination, digestion, elimination, speaking, tongue. So these are the organs of action. Hearing, touch, seeing, tasting, smelling. Actually, this right here is over here, I believe. And this is, yeah, hearing. Actually, what's it, hearing? Light. Yeah, I'll have to go look and, yeah. Anyways, I'm a little confused here. Yeah. So the mind coordinates the 5 organs of perception and the organs of action. Right? Mind coordinates it. And these are the elements. So you experience, how do you experience hearing? How do you hear? There has to be, let's see here. Touch is space, air. Touch is air. Seeing, how can you see? You can see if there's fire, creates light for you to see. Tasting, you cannot taste unless there's water. Tasting only happens if the mouth is wet. If the mouth is dry, you can't taste. And smelling is earth. Smelling is earth. So these 5 jnana indriyas line up with the bhutas. And this is Ayurveda. Like understanding this part right here, this part down here is Ayurveda. So Sankhya philosophy is the basis for yoga and Ayurveda. Sankhya is the basis for yoga and Ayurveda. So yes, so to answer your question, Paul, Mula Prakriti, it precedes Prakriti. So if you can go back and have an experience of such peace, then you are very close to having the experience of pure consciousness. Yes, it is similar to samadhi.
So that was
What was your question?
my follow-up question was, if Mula Prakriti exists before birth and after death, could only exist by removing the kleshas, right?
Yes. No, it doesn't only exist by removing the kleshas. Does it only exist? It's there. It's always existing. Mula Prakriti is always in existence. It's just accessing it or experiencing it.
So to experience it, to remove the kleshas.
Yeah, but we don't usually talk about having an experience of Mula Prakriti. We talk about Mula Prakriti is sort of like having an experience that precedes Prakriti. All of this is Prakriti. All of this whole reality that we are experiencing right now is Prakriti. Mula Prakriti is sort of the seeds of this experience, or the roots of this experience, and it's nothingness. It's a shunya. Shunya means void. So all of this that we're experiencing now comes from the void, and it's very in alignment with quantum physics, that everything comes from nothing, and that really all of this is sort of nothing. When you break all this down, there's really nothing but a bunch of space, energy. Right? You guys remember in your physics class? When was it Boyd or one of the scientists? He had a piece of foil, gold foil, and he was shooting electrons through it, or protons or whatever. And he was like, and he noticed it was that protons or something. And he noticed that like most of the gold foil was empty space. And then they found out that most of the atom is empty space. And then as they kept breaking down particles and subatomic particles, and they found that most of those are just empty space, electron clouds, right? I'm no quantum physicist, but correct me if I'm wrong. Yeah.
So some physicists would downplay that idea that everything is mostly made up of empty space, because electrons are, these forms of energy are particles and waves at the same time. And so it's not really a question of like exact position. We can never be absolutely sure of an electron's position. The more sure we are of its position, the less sure we are of its speed, and vice versa. It's all about probabilities. And so then when you think about an atom looking like a solar system, that's somewhat of a false impression, because it's more of like a rounded sphere, because the electron has the possibility of inhabiting all those positions all at the same time, which doesn't really make sense. And that's the idea. At the subatomic level, laws of logic start to break down. And that's why quantum physics is really hard to wrap our minds around.
Okay, well then let's just take a look at this, just looking at the known universe.
And that's according to Sean Carroll, who is a physicist.
Okay, so rough approximation of the distance between nucleus and electrons. Let's see, well, no, that's not what, here it is. All of matter in the universe would fit into about 1 billion cubic light years, or a cube, blah, 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 blah. It means that, so theory, this is just theory, right? I'm no scientist, but what I'm hearing from a lot of different sources of science is that most of the universe is empty space. 0.000000042% of the universe contains matter. So if the macro is anything like the micro, then most of what we experience in this material realm is space. So who knows? But what the yogis do know is that if you close your eyes and get to the point where you're not having any thoughts, you too will experience this shunya, this void. Okay? Yes.
5 minutes.
Okay, thanks. So, how the hell did I get there? Oh yeah, because we were talking about Mula Prakriti, whatever. Did I answer your question?
Sorry. Yeah, I got it. Thank you.
Wow, we went down a deep rabbit hole there. Right, okay, I think that's a good place to stop. today. So please remember we stopped on 19. We are not done with it, actually. Let's see, the 3 stages, this in reverse order, from gross to subtle, which is then followed by yogic samadhis. Yogic contemplation goes from gross to subtle. Yoga is a practice of going from the gross to the subtle. In other words, we're rolling back. We're traveling backwards. From the moment we're born, we travel outward. We'll travel outward. I'm back, Asmita, all this world. But yoga, we are going backwards in time. Backwards, we're involuting, not evolving, where we're not going forward. We're going backwards, back to source. Yoga is a journey back to source, back to where the cosmic soup from which we all have sprung. The cosmic soup from which we've all sprung. What is the cosmic soup called? It is called, oh man, I forgot. Paramatma means supreme soul. The cosmic soup is, right, I can't think of it right now. Right, yeah, Mula Prakriti, cosmic soup. There you go. The Mula Prakriti is the cosmic soup, and from which we all come from. Yeah. So again, what is the equilibrium of the 3 gunas? Chitta vritti nirodha. Chitta vritti nirodha equals the equilibrium of the 3 gunas. Chitta vritti nirodha means equilibrium of 3 gunas. That's what this sutra is saying. Okay, I think that's a good place to stop. Please remember we're at 20. Start on 20 next time. I will use my trusty post-it note. All right, questions, comments? We have 2 minutes. You all are beautiful beings. Sahana vavatu, sahano bhunaktu, sahaviryam karavavahai, tejasvina vadhi tamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om shanti shanti shantihi. Om yogena chitasya padena vacham malam sharirasya cha vaidyakena yopakarotam pravaramuninam patanjalim pranjaliranatosmi. Abahu purushakaram shankachakra siddharnam sahasrashirasham shvetam pranamami patanjalim. Shrimate Anantaya Nagarajaya Namo Namaha. Namo Namaha. Namo Namaha. Om. Thank you. Have a good evening. See you this weekend. Oh, hey, by the way, hang on, let me stop this recording.